Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to call the open of the session of the West Parry Sound Recreation and Culture Center Board for December 11th, 2024 to order at 7:42 p.m. Thank you for joining us. And before we move forward with the agenda, please note that pursuant to Section 239, Clauses 2 and 3 of the Municipal Services Act, Statutes of Ontario 2001, Clause 25, as amended, the West Parry Sound Recreation and Culture Center Board moved to a meeting closed to the public in order to address matters pertaining to item E, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, that being a breach of contract, and item K, a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board, that being a sponsorship offer. We will now, are there any additions to the open agenda? Seeing none, may I have an approval for the agenda? Moved by Councillor Fellner, seconded by Councillor Dubrow, that the agenda for the December 11th, 2024 West Parry Sound Recreation and Culture Center Board is hereby approved as circulated. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Thank you. Item 1.4 is the declaration of pecuniary interest. Are there any declarations to declare this evening? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 1.5, which is the approval of the minutes. May I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Mayor McGarvey, seconded by Mayor Robinson, that the minutes of the November 13th, 2024 regular meeting of the West Parry Sound Recreation and Culture Center Board are hereby approved as circulated. All in favor? Opposed, if any? And that is carried. Thank you. There are no delegations or correspondence to entertain this evening. Then that moves us into item 3, which is business and the chair's report. I do not have anything to report that won't be discussed in the open agenda this evening. Item 3.2 is the monthly financial reports, and we have a report submitted by Ms. Phillips, and I would ask for her to take us through any salient points that she would like to bring to our attention this evening.
Sure, thank you. So some of the highlights from the November 2024 financial statements are that the balance sheet shows cash balance at approximately $947,000, $3.8 million in grant funding is receivable from ISIP, and a claim payment for $807,732 was received in November. $8,438,000 has been recorded as work in progress towards the capital works. On to the statement of operations, $3.87 million in ISIP grant revenues have been claimed to date. Legal and other consulting costs to date are $69,733, which includes agreement work, advice regarding the purchase of land, including donations, etc. Funds on hand are earning interest of $190,960 year to date. And as of November, the fundraising surplus from the beginning to date is $575,728. $196,384 was receipted towards the Moose FM fundraising campaign, exceeding the target of $100,000. And the Carmichael Family Foundation generously announced that they will increase their matching of that funding to $190,000. So that contribution is not yet reflected in the report. It's forthcoming. And to speak about cash flow, cash call for temporary financing of $1.5 million was made to the partners back in September. $352,000 approximately is presently in the bank account after preparation of the report and issuing payments. A review of a claim for eligible expenses of approximately $3.5 million has concluded, and a payment is expected on that. but on inquiry, we've been advised that it's queued for approvals, but that's unlikely to be paid out until the new year. So I'm following up on that. As a result, if that can't be confirmed prior to around December 23rd, around there, then another cash call will be required to make immediate payments. And then once those payments came in January, we wouldn't require that any further. So then that would be returned. So recently received invoices approaching 1.2 million. So that's the reason that I'm talking about a future cash call if we can't get that payment in time. And the board's legal advisor has reviewed the documents provided by the bank for the loan and have provided comments for required changes, which have gone back to the bank, and the bank's currently reviewing and looking to make the required changes. So that's still in progress. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Ms. Phillips? Seeing none, thank you. May I have a mover and a seconder for a resolution that the November 30th, 2024 financial reports be received for information? Moved by Mayor McGarvey, seconded by Councillor Fellner. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Phillips.
Thank you.
And item 3.4 is a fundraising team report. I'm sorry. It's item 3.3 is the project and budget update, and I would ask CEO Inwood to provide us with that update on behalf of the steering committee. Let's just move up one of these chairs. Yes, Mr. Homeward is online.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm pleased to quickly transition my report here over to Mr. Homewood from Ball Construction, who will walk you through a presentation which has been included. I do quickly want to thank Ball and the team for just continuing to forge forward, even with some weather challenges. They continue to make meaningful progress, but we'll let Mr. Homewood proceed with his update if you don't mind.
Thank you, Mr. Inwood. Over to you, Mr. Homeward.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, can everyone see my screen now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Excellent. I thought I was getting a pass for a moment. I was, I was excited for a second. Anyway, so just again, the monthly update. We're going to go through the similar format as we have in the previous months. So we'll just talk about the short-term schedule. So a 3 to 4 month look ahead, the overall project schedule, and also a budget update. So in terms of the short-term schedule, we're currently tracking at about 65% of the footings for the foundations have been completed. And so, yeah, 65% and about 45% of the foundation walls are complete. The foundation should be complete. All the concrete work should be complete mid-January. But we do have some structural steel, specifically over top of the swimming pool, will be delivered early January and start being installed. And then in late February, the CLT wood roof deck over the pool will be installed. In terms of the project schedule, yep, so it's the same. The overall project schedule, structural steel framing should be completed and the roof deck sometime in March of 2025. So the building envelope, all the exterior walls, the roof and the glazing, that will all start in the spring. So no changes from the last update. Same thing with the swimming pool starting in the summer, and the targeted completion date is the same as the last update, which is mid-May 2026. In terms of the project budget, there have been no changes in the construction budget since the November 13th, 2024 project update. We're sitting at 94.75% of the total hard costs have been tendered. Just so everyone knows, the balance that's still to be tendered are items related to the paving and landscaping. And the intent is to have those tendered probably around March of 2025. We're just a little too early to tender those right now. There has been a slight increase in the overall project budget that's related to additional sewer work on Joseph Street. So right now, the overall project budget is currently at approximately 39.5 million. So as everyone knows, we've got some good snowy conditions. Winter's finally hit, but we're working away. Just a couple images there, and also just a couple more as well. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Homewood?
Thank you, Chair Sanderson. Question for Mr. Homewood. When the crews are working in the snow and that sort of thing, I mean, I imagine it's kind of slow going. How are they making that all work?
So overall, in terms of the schedule, yeah, we're progressing well. It is a little bit slower, but we did anticipate running into this weather. We knew it was in Parry Sound, and we knew it would be coming eventually. I think we lucked out early on. It was a fairly decent November, so we made decent time in there, and I think we're probably tracking, I would say, approximately 2 weeks behind on where we thought for foundations, but it won't delay any of the other work that, like for instance, the structural steel, because the work related, all the concrete for that steel that's being delivered early January has already been completed. So right now, I think we're still completely on track with the schedule.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dubrow.
Thank you, Chair Sanderson, and thank you, Mr. Homewood. One quick question for you. You talked about the project budget and the additional sewer work on Joseph Street. Have you done exploratory work to get an estimate of what you're anticipating is going to happen there? Do you have a good feel for what's going to happen with the sewer work?
Yep, there has been some work, and it might be worthwhile to pass it over to Jason Inwood for some further clarifications. But from my understanding, yes, there's been some exploratory work done, and some pricing has been submitted, and that has been taken into account for this project budget.
Thank you.
Over to you, Seo Inwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To respond, there'll be further information coming to the board's attention in January in a formal report as it relates to the sanitary connections. There has been an extensive amount of exploratory work undertaken in the first phase of the infrastructure installation, and we have some pretty sound quotes, but there's going to be a requirement to bring some information to the board for board consideration before we make any decisions on how that'll work. However, I did share with Mr. Homewood the financial implications of that, and he's updated the budget to reflect what we anticipate, sort of worst case scenario, if you will. And yeah, so I think for the board's purposes, you should expect a report from us in the new year.
Thank you very much. Any other questions for Mr. Homewood or Mr. Inwood? Seeing none, may I have a mover and a seconder for a resolution that the board received the December 11th, 2024 project and budget update for information purposes. Moved by Councillor Dubrow, seconded by Mayor Robinson. All in favor? Opposed, if any? And that motion is carried. Thank you. Now for item 3.4 is a report from our fundraising team, and I would ask for Mayor McDermott to provide her verbal update.
Well, I think First of all, the Moose campaign was an overwhelming success. Our goal was $100,000. We raised 196, 384,000. And our Secret Santa came out of the woodwork on the 23rd of November and raised his contribution, almost doubling it from $100,000 to $190,000. I don't know whether any of you heard him repeatedly on Moose, and I will work with him to see if we can repeat this with another donor next year. That's our goal, is his challenge is out. He has some ideas of specific people he'd like to approach, but it's proven that it works to get grassroots donations. In addition to that, when you add that up and Stephanie's report, we're at about a $787,000 dollars in the bank when you add his 190. But I also want to point out that we have contracts signed and in Rebecca's hands for another $197,000. These are things like the Maple Leaf Marina contract to pay over 5 years. We have one that I submitted tonight, payable over 5 years. So those are contractual commitments. And if you add the two of those together, we're at $984,000, 294. So we're closing in on our first million. The website for letsmakeasplash.ca will soon have a thermometer on it that we hope will show where we stand against our 5 million. The next event, which I hope you've all got your tickets for, is the Winter Sound Waves, which is happening this Sunday at the Stocky Center, 1 to 4. It's had pretty good coverage. Last year it sold out, so I hope to see you there. And I also want to tell you about a fundraising campaign that's going to start January 3rd. And I can pass these out. These are samples. But Domino's Pizza, for the whole month of January, will have 2 deals. One for probably singles, which is a large pizza for $15.99, and another one for families, which is 2 medium pizzas for $30.99. The less expensive one will get $3 a pizza from, the other one $5. He estimates that if we all in this room and our communities help, he's going to make these coupons. If we help distribute these coupons, we could sell between 3,000 and 4,000 pizzas in January. That would be an average January. So that delivers $15,000. They came to us. So when I have samples, you can look at these, but when I have the actual coupons, I'd like to reserve the right to distribute a whole lot of them to all of you. You can give them to anybody you want to encourage them to order from Domino's. They deliver regularly to Shawniga, as far as down as McTier. I'm quite shocked, but so you can have dinner at home and help the center. And I was hoping Stephanie would be here, but I'll put it in Mr. Harris's capable hands to deliver. It pays when you're having events to have donation boxes out. We had a turkey dinner in Seguin. In 2 hours, we collected $300 cash. It's what's called unreceived cash donations. We don't know where it comes from, but when you have an event, call us. We'll bring you some donation boxes. It works. So are there any questions?
Any questions for Marianne? Mayor Robinson?
Thank you, and thank you, Mayor Ann and the Culverwells, for all the hard work that you do on this. I'd just like to extend a heartfelt thanks to the Carmichael Family Foundation, who did do that matching part of the Moose campaign, and the local face and name that I can put to that is Don Carmichael, as we know, was a former counselor in McKellar and very active as on the Belvedere Board of Heights board as well. So I would just, on behalf of all the board, I'm sure you share those sentiments, to thank you very much for an extreme showing of generosity for a very worthwhile project. And so thank you very much to Don and his family for what he did, and thank you to the fundraising committee as well. Thank you.
Thank you. It's well deserved. And I point out that Mr. Carmichael came to us 3 years ago and said, I want to do this. And I also want to point out, because I do know where some of the donations are coming from, there are quite a few donors in the Moose campaign that live in Whitestone.
Thank you. Any other questions for Marianne? I would just add to her remarks, commend if anyone would like to hear the dulcet tones of Councillor Fellner playing his tenor saxophone, that he will be a part of the winter sound waves this Sunday at the Stocky Center. So can't wait to hear that. There being no further business before us this evening, I would ask for a mover and a seconder to adjourn the meeting. Moved by Councillor Fellner, seconded by Reeve Liverance, that the meeting be adjourned at 8:02 p.m. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Thank you very much, everyone. Stay safe. Have a very Merry Christmas and a happy holiday season. Take care.